This lesson is about garages. We have two types of garages. We have detached garages and attached garages. In both of those, the important thing that you need to pay attention to are the safety elements. The safety aspects of the automobile door and also the safety aspect to the general interior door. So let's get on.
Now I'm going to show you how to perform a garage inspection. So come on with me. Now, following our checklist, what we're going to do is look at each of the individual components of the garage. When it comes to a garage, we're going to be looking at the ceiling, the walls, the ground, or the floor. We're going to be operating the doors. We're going to be looking at the outlets. We're going to be looking at the windows. When it comes to a garage, though, there's always, not always, but there are obstructive views. People have cars in the garage at the time of the inspection, or there's actually items inside the garage, tool benches, stored items. So we're going to want to note that while we perform a garage inspection, that those are locations we cannot see because we're not going to move everything. So let's start with the process. The first thing I end up doing is testing the door. We want to make sure that this is a self-closing door, which we're going to test like that, and it closes. Secondly, we want to make sure it is fire-rated door. Again, we don't get into codes, into standards, but we want to make sure that this is a metal door with a metal frame, and there's typically a sticker on the inside of the door itself stating that it's fire-rated. So we all have that here, so that's great. Now, what I end up starting to do is we're going to look at the ceiling. Again, we know we have an attic door for the garage, and we'll talk about that during the attic inspection. So again, we scan the ceiling. We're looking for any stains. We're looking for any damage. And then at that particular time, we're going to look at the garage door openers, just the overall condition of them. And we want to make sure that there's an outlet for each of the garage door openers. We don't want extension cords being connected because extension cords are for only temporary power. So, and you can notice that we do have some joints that are missing where tape is. And the reason why we have a concern with that is because the living section above, we want to make sure that this is considered a fire-rated area, okay? If there's any missing tape, any damage, if there's a fire in the garage, that can go directly to the second floor, all right? So, let's get started with operating the garage doors. You're going to come back over to this location. And we're going to be listening to the door. Is there any sounds? Is there any clanking? And you can understand it's a nice, smooth transition that occurs. Now, what we're going to do is end up looking at the door, and you can kind of tell here that there's some rust along the bottom of the door because that's where all the pitch of the floors go to the outside. So out in the northeast, when we have snow and a lot of water, what's going to happen is that water is going to run to the bottom where the door is. So that's why we have a little bit of rust. And we're going to note that in our checklist. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go back and close these doors. And we're going to close both. And again, we're listening to see if there's any clanking, any weird sounds and things of that nature. Now, both these doors have torsional springs. Sometimes garages have lateral springs, and if there's a spring, that means that we want a safety wire in that spring, because if it snaps, we don't want that spring being flown around, because that is a safety defect. We're going to come over, we're going to look at the lifting cables for each of these. We want to make sure there's no rust. We don't want that lifting cable coming unthreaded. We want to look at each of the rollers for each of the doors. You want to look at the mechanism for the arm and how it's attached to the door to make sure everything is secure. You actually see your safety release. So everything looks dynamite here. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to open both the doors and we're going to test the photoelectric eyes. And this is where I actually get the client involved. It's important to get your client involved in the inspection for multiple reasons. One, they can see how you're performing the inspection. And two, if there are any defects, you can have those verbal conversations with them at the time of the inspection. So here I would actually have them hit the buttons and then I would test the photo eyes. So, because we don't have a client here, so that indicates to us that the photoelectric eyes are working. Now, one of the last things that we're going to want to do is now we're going to look at the walls. We're going to see if we can try to operate some of these windows. So let's try to take a look at this. That window doesn't fall down, so that operates. We're going to re-lock it. And then again, we only have to test a representative amount. So now we're going to be looking for outlets. And we're going to be looking, well, it's kind of difficult here. So it looks like we have a electrical outlet. We'll move a little bit, but it's not connected. I don't try to start moving everything around. Here we go. So here we do have an outlet. We can see that we got an extension cord, so I'm going to disconnect that one because I know it's not going anywhere. And we're going to bring out our GFCI tester. And this is properly grounded. Now, when it comes to garages, some people's belief is that each outlet in the garage should have a ground fault circuit interrupter. Again, we don't talk about code, but from a safety point of view, we want the outlets to be ground fault circuit interrupter, and I'm testing it here, and it's not. And the reason why is there are liquids, there is fluid out in the garage area for safety, and you don't know what you're going to be using. So from our perspective, we would like to see ground fault circuit interrupters in the garage. And then we're going to reconnect that. And then the last item that we're going to do is looking at the floor. This is important because it gives us an indication structurally what's going on with the house. So as we examine the floor, we're going to just have our eyes, we're going to scan back and forth, and we do have some surface cracks. Now these are considered more or less settling cracks, and you're going to take your hand and you're going to feel along here. And what we're going to be looking for is there any displacement. Also, we're going to look at these cracks and do they follow along the sheetrock, or maybe if there's a portion of the foundation, could there be a foundation issue? But typically, the garage floor is a poured piece of concrete that's not associated with the foundation. Now, when we're looking at these cracks, we're looking for, is there any efflorescence, any white residue? That means water is coming up. And we don't have any of that here. So far, I'm not seeing any structural issues with this garage floor. It may be unsightly because we have some pitting because of the salt during the winter months. And we tell our clients from a periodic maintenance, hey, you want to clean this up, maybe put an epoxy coating on the floor. Now, when we're always continuing looking at our checklist for the garage to make sure that we're capturing each of the items that we need to inspect per our SOPs. Now, as you can see over here, we have an additional heating system. This is looks like an electric system back here, and we do test these systems. So it looks like it's in the off condition. So we're going to turn it on high. All right. And now because it's during the summer months, what we're going to notice, it's not operating. But it may not be operating because the breaker's turned off in the electrical box. So at this point, we would walk to the main electrical breaker or the main electrical panel, determine if the breaker is in the shutdown condition. If it's in the shutdown, meaning if the breaker's turned off, we do not turn that breaker on. We just know at the time of the inspection, the heating system was in the shutdown condition. And I can safely say the breaker is in the off position. So that's why this system is not operating. This is how we perform an attached garage inspection, following everything on our checklist.
This chapter will discuss two types of garages, attached and detached. As a home inspector, you need to understand the differences when inspecting either type. The key difference between the two is when the actual inspection begins. When inspecting an attached garage, the roof and ventilation, exterior walls, exterior grounds, electrical and plumbing systems are performed while inspecting the overall house. Only when you physically enter the garage does the inspection begin. Therefore, if any other defects besides the inside of the attached garage are found, those defects shall be discussed within the appropriate inspection sections. Whereas, when inspecting a detached garage, you will discuss the defects pertaining to the roof and ventilation, exterior walls, exterior grounds, electrical and plumbing systems within the detached garage section. Why? You must consider a detached garage as a separate building which may have similar characteristics of a house. This lesson will complete the requirements for the attached and detached garage inspection process. The main objective when inspecting an attached garage is if there are any potential fire hazards that may result in affecting the main dwelling of the house. Garage fires do happen, and as a home inspector, our job is to note any conditions that would assist in the spread or cause of that fire. As a home inspector, here are a few examples that you are observing and noting. Stored flammable materials. Do the walls consist of studs, or is there cladding on the walls, like sheetrock, plywood, or paneling? Is the common wall between the house and garage fire-rated sheetrock? Are there any open hatches or access to the attic? This will act as a chimney during a fire. And are there any walls between the attic of the house and garage? Any non-fire rated doors. Are the doors self-closing? Proper operation of the vehicle doors. Electrical operating door openers. Does the garage have a GFCI outlet? Is there a photoelectric eye on the door? You should also look for the auto reverse on the vehicle door. Is there a heating system? And is there a pilot light less than 18 inches off of the floor? Study this image and become familiar with the components of a garage. As a home inspector, there are some common defects or concerns that you may observe. Concrete slab cracking, heaving and or settlement, holes or openings in firewalls or ceilings, electrical panels often blocked or restricted access. Door to residence does not meet fire spread requirements. Garage door opener does not reverse or reverse properly. Missing electronic sensors 6 inches above floor. Extension cord wiring. Lighting not operating properly. Deterioration at garage doors and or frames. garage door hinges loose or missing hardware, garage framing racked, walls bowed and or doors out of alignment, roof framing deflection and condition of the roofing gutters, downspouts, and trims, condition of the wood sill plates and other suspect wood, garage door springs loose or without safety retainer, track and roller operation, lack of GFCI protection. Take some time to study the next few slides. This is the checklist for an attached garage inspection. The main difference between an attached garage and detached garage, there is no common wall between the garage and the main dwelling of the house. As a home inspector, you will perform the same interior inspection of the attached garage, although you will perform an exterior of the roof and wall and electrical inspections too.
This chapter dealt with garages. We're going to discuss two different types of garages, the attached garage and the detached garage. When it comes to the attached garage, the one important thing that I always look for is that interior door. It can be dangerous if it doesn't self-close. Cars can be left inside the garage running. The door could stay propped open because they were carrying the groceries in. Whatever the story, the house can fill up with carbon monoxide and can be very dangerous. The second thing I want to look at is the garage door, and does it have the safety features in terms of does the door continue going down or does it reverse if something interrupts it. Everything else at an attached garage is just about condition, but the most important thing I look at in those attached garage are those two safety issues. Also, there is a common wall when it comes to the difference between an attached garage and a detached garage. The attached garage has a common wall with the house, so that makes the safety inspection all that much more important. The detached garage is set off separately, so along with those safety issues, you also want to look at the siding and the windows and the roof, make sure that you can use it for storage, etc. But when it comes to garages, the first thing that jumps to my mind is my family's safety. So good luck with the quiz.